today's news, the BVI records 2 additional COVID-19 related deaths and experienced a decline in active cases.
Let's keep the record clear and straight. I built the Tortola Pier Park, says Claude Skelton-Cline. He wants to be given credit for the Tortola Pier Park.
And 19 companies submit RFQs to the BVI Electricity Corporation with hopes of qualifying to bid for the Microgrid project at Paraquita Bay.
Prominent businessman Desmond D. Alphonso has died, and the historical case review team established by the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force is set to tackle cold cases dating back some 2 decades. All this and so much more after a word from our sponsors. You're watching 284 News.
The wait is over. CCT Fire is here. Experience ultra-fast downloads, seamless streaming, and even more reliable connectivity on an all-new fire-blazing super-fast CCT Fiber network. CCT Fire. Bring it home and upgrade today.
Well, welcome everyone. It's Friday, January 14th, 2022. I'm Kamal Haynes.
And I'm Ron Grant. We are coming to you live and direct from the Virgin Islands. A happy Friday to each and every one of you. Before we get into our newscast, we're just touching, of course, the BVI Health Services Authority has added the Virgin Gorda, the island of Virgin Gorda, to the weekend vaccination drive initiative that commenced last week. That's the 8th and 9th of January 2022. Now, the 9th District residents are asked to note that the AstraZeneca and Pfizer vaccines will be offered to persons seeking first, second, and booster doses this Saturday. Now, those interested are asked to attend the Nurse Iris O'Neill Clinic, that's the new building, on the 15th of January 2022, between the hours of 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. The public is also being notified that the weekend vaccination drive will continue at the Dr. D. Orlando Smith lobby on the 16th of January 2022 between the hours of 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. Those seeking their first, second, and again booster shots of either the vaccines are asked to take note, and persons seeking to be vaccinated are asked to walk with a government-issued identification card.
Well, viewers, moving on to as we start today's newscast on a sad note, where the total COVID-19 related deaths in the British Virgin Islands have now increased to 42 following 2 additional deaths. But this was confirmed by the Acting Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Ronald Georges, during an online forum on Thursday. While not going in depth on the circumstances regarding the 2 deaths, Dr. Georges did reveal that one of the casualties was unvaccinated. Well, Dr. Georges also informed participants of the forum that the territory's COVID-19 infections are experiencing a decline. Well, he said there are now 1,305 active positive COVID-19 cases, a decline from the previously announced 1,387 cases that were announced a day prior. Well, viewers, we move on to another story where from the BVI Electricity Corporation, where the BVI Electricity Corporation's Microgrid project at Paraquita Bay is now one step closer to commencing after 19 companies submitted their request for quotation last Friday. Well, the companies were tasked with submitting information to the BVIEC to be evaluated for the purposes of qualifying them for a future tender for engineer procurement and construction services. Well, the scope of the project includes solar PV, battery storage, power management systems, a substation, and will require undergrounding of electrical cables with options for integration with existing fossil fuel generating assets in the BVI. Well, 284 News subsequently reached out to the Electricity Corporation's General Manager Leroy Abraham, who spoke on the evaluation process. Well, he said all 19 applications will be evaluated in accordance with the criteria specified in the RFQ, which all entities must satisfy in order to be qualified. Well, he said, and I quote, "Well, the evaluation committee comprising of BVIEC and its industry partners will carefully and thoroughly review each application to see if it meets the requirements specified in the RFQ document. Those that do will be qualified, and naturally those that don't will be disqualified. Remember, this is a process to pre-qualify companies to bid on the project once the bid documents are completed. So only those companies which are qualified will be allowed to bid," explained Mr. Abraham. But the GM also said that the huge interest shown by the 19 submissions, which also include prominent international companies, is evident that the BVI is amongst the top countries in the region when it comes to transitioning to renewable energy. Well, he said, and I quote, Well, the BVIEC's projects are advertised in some of the most recognized periodicals in the renewable energy industry, which results in international interest from some of the biggest names operating in this space. Clearly, it positions the BVI as a leader regionally with respect to its clean energy transition, end quote. But Abraham also spoke to the significance of the project once completed, which he said will aid in strengthening the territory's resilience in instances of natural disaster. Well, he said this completion of this project will add much needed resilience to the transmission network in the event of another extreme weather event such as Hurricane Irma and Maria, add renewable energy and battery energy storage so as to reduce the quantum of fossil fuel energy needed to be produced and aids in achieving the renewable energy targets set by the government, end quote. Well, viewers, last January, the BVIEC announced that they had secured a technical assistance grant of $600,000 through the Caribbean Development Bank, which was provided by the Canadian support to the energy sector in the Caribbean Fund. Ron, this is some great news. We see somewhat more renewable energy projects being developed in the territory. We would have seen the Anegada renewable energy project, a lucky bidder being awarded last year, and obviously that project is set to get on the ground, get going. And now we see somewhat of another one on the works, basically by the BVIEC as they continue to transition to renewable energy in alignment with the BVI government's goal of going green.
Kamal, one of the beautiful things about the BVI Electricity Corporation under the leadership of Mr. Leroy Abraham is they have found, him and his team have essentially found a very creative way of not only increasing and really fostering a healthier way of living for Virgin Islanders as it pertains to renewable energy, but in that they have found a way of making sure that local entrepreneurs and businesses find ways of employment, and substantially so. Not only the Anegada project, where we see a number of young men who had an opportunity to not only be trained but work in the field, and we are understanding that there's a second cohort who have already began the process. But in this initiative, where a number of businesses are putting up, of course, their bids and being selected possibly for this opportunity, I do think that Mr. Abraham and his team are to be commended in this regard.
Indeed.
Viewers, continuing on, reports reaching our newsroom yesterday evening from close family have confirmed that prominent businessman, that is Desmond D.A. Alphonso, died yesterday in his hometown of Guyana. Now, Mr. Desmond D.A. Alphonso, along with his family, have held prominent businesses in both the British Virgin Islands and Guyana for a number of decades. In a Facebook post, his older brother, Frankie Alphonso, paid tribute to his late brother by saying, "I will miss you, small brother. You've gone too soon. Things will never be the same without you. Rest in peace, D.A." Now, at the time of his passing, Mr. Alphonso was hospitalized, and of course, Kamal, Mr. Alphonso, of course, would have made headlines a few years ago, of course, for his alleged dealings, which saw him being petitioned to be deported from the British Virgin Islands. He was a businessman in the Virgin Islands for a number of decades, and because of the circumstances, Virgin Islanders in of themselves did present a petition to the government of the Virgin Islands, the governor rather, that saw him being deported back to Guyana. Outside of that, he did contribute significantly prior to that as it pertains to the business arena here in the British Virgin Islands, and his family, they too continue to be outstanding business persons within the community.
Indeed. Viewers, up next, historical case review team established by the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force to tackle cold cases dating back 2 decades. And let's keep the record clear and straight. I built the Pier Park, says Claude Skelton-Cline. Well, viewers, we get to those stories when 284 News return.
Is business slow, cash flow down, hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media@cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a brand new season of The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, a show poised to help guide modern-day men into 21st century distinguished gentlemen. It doesn't always involve suits and, bow ties, but raw, real-life lessons that translate to grounded, community-minded, well-rounded men. This season, I'm taking you on an entirely different journey, from chefs to dancers, philanthropists, communications specialists, and much more. I'm heading outside in the field to share the journey of some of the BVI's best and brightest men. From East End to West End, Virgin Gorda, Desmond, not forgetting Antigua. Our Virgin Islands gentlemen are doing the damn thing, and I'm so proud. Get ready to reason, reflect, and redirect. We are the movers and shakers of this generation, and we ain't afraid to show it. The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, Season 3 by yours truly, Ron Grant, raising a generation of greatness.
Well, welcome back, viewers. Well, the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force will be aiming this year to solve more cold cases dating back some 2 decades following the creation of a historical case review team. Well, this was revealed by the Commissioner of Police, Mark Collins, during a recent press conference. Well, he said the aim of the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force is to review a number of these unsolved cases using previously submitted evidence and new technology.
We also have created a dedicated historical case team that is solely committed to reviewing all of the previous crimes that we've got on the islands and to look at previous testaments, to look at previous victim statements, to look at previous opportunities around forensics, and to meet with families and to discuss the cases of their loved ones. Indeed, I personally have met with families most recently about some of the outstanding cases to appraise them of the situation and what we are seeking to achieve. With fresh eyes and greater technology at our disposal, we will this year see charges for other murders, I am sure.
Well, Commissioner Collins also said he believes that the total number of cold cases to be solved in the BVA are around 30. Well, he said the aim is to look at each outstanding case one by one before proceeding to the next.
When I mentioned about the 2 years, I mentioned the most recent spate that we've had. So we've had some successes. I think I said 5 out of the 9 have been detected already. So we will concentrate on the other 4 that are outstanding. But the whole purpose of the historical case review team is to look at those cases that go back probably up to 20 years across the islands. And I think I'm talking about some 30 cases there. But we will look at those case by case and we will report to the media as and when we get any breakthroughs. But my biggest thing on this is the liaison with the families first and letting the families know what we're doing, how we're doing it, and appraising them of the situation. But we want to look at those cases that are outstanding, yes.
Our viewers, the top cop said that the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force has solved 5 of the 9 most recent murder cases over the last 2 years. Ron, this is obviously some good news for those families who continue to mourn the loss of their loved ones who to date have had no one charged or arrested for those murders.
Kamal, what would be good news is if the murders are actually solved? I think this has been decades, and I do appreciate the Commissioner, Top Cop's efforts in creating this new body to tackle that specifically. But I think in the final analysis, justice and some closure will only come not by talks of an organization who is going to do, but at the end of the day, bringing some resolve to these matters. Viewers, continuing on the local scene at a government contract signing, former Communication and Works Minister, the Honorable Mark Vanterpool, applauded former PS within the ministry at the time, that's Permit Secretary, Mr. Anthony McMaster, for his work and contributions on the Tortola Pier Park. Now, Vanterpool at the time was really addressing the issue of McMaster still acting as the RDA head, that's Recovery and Development Agency. The legislator called for McMaster to be confirmed in his post as RDA head. In response to Vanterpool's claims, social commentator Mr. Claude Skelton-Cline, during a recent episode of his radio program, Honestly Speaking, said, and I quote, "What I don't agree with my minister, he said that McMaster built the pier. That's not true." Skelton-Cline, the former managing director of the BVI Ports Authority, continued by saying, "So the minister was trying to make a point but use that. But that wasn't the best example. He said that was not built by the ministry, that was not built by the then PS. Confirm him for all the other work he's done and continues to do. I'm for that. But let's keep the record clear and straight. Based on Skelton-Cline's claims, the Tortola Pier Park was built by the governing corporate body under his leadership. as the then head of the BVI Ports Authority, and of course collaboration with the team that he put together from the authority. Skelton-Cline added, "You all don't look at me funny either, because it's my name you all like to call when anything negative comes up about it. So I don't want to hear you. Since you all want to give me all the flack for it, well, doggone it, at some point, put your hands together and applaud and clap for the team that was assembled under my leadership in building the Tortola Pier Park." Kamal, the Tortola Pier Park, since its inception, has definitely faced its level of scrutiny by persons claiming whether it be over budgeted, value for money. But here we see the former managing director of the BVI Ports Authority really calling for himself, which he claims to be given credit for the building of the Tortola Pier Park. I think in the final analysis, the facility has been by far one of the most significant additions to the BVI tourism product. And I do think with holistic leadership and continued development, it could continue to serve in the best interest of the BVI when it comes to that tourism product, be it whoever was responsible for it happening.
Indeed, that's what I was just going to touch on, Ron. Regardless of who built it, the fact is completed, you know, and the tourists are basically reaping the rewards of whoever it was that was behind the building of it, and you know, the people of the territory are ultimately benefiting.
And most importantly, we as a territory need to benefit from it, because there's no sense in having such a beautiful facility but it not reaping the benefits. And I think, of course, with all that has been happening, of course, COVID-19 and the very up and down efforts within the tourism sector, it is hoped that it could increase economic revenue within the business community, particularly when it comes to tourism. Viewers, up next, Descendant families of Salt Island lead a recently established Salt Island Advisory Committee. That's the SILAC committee, and that committee is supposed to address the applications and oversee really the land distribution initiative. And Prince Andrew has been stripped of royal titles one day before U.S. judge ruled to proceed with a sexual assault lawsuit. All this and so much more after a word from our sponsors. You're watching 284 News.
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.
Brilliant Hands and Minds Tutoring Services, one-on-one tutorials in math and English, intense homework assistance, academic enrichment, school projects, effective communication and public speaking development, sign language for adults and children on Saturdays only. Registered with the Virgin Islands High School Certificate Program, Brilliant Hands and Minds can help you too. Offering intense curriculum-based training to help you or your loved ones get their high school diploma. It's time to make your family's education a #1 priority. Hurry, space is limited. Brilliant Hands and Minds Learning Center. We are the trained education professionals.
Viewers, welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Now on again to local news. A team of Virgin Islanders now lead the recently established Salt Island Lands Authority Committee. They are Mr. Wallace Leonard and Mr. Paul Leonard, Miss Lydia Durant and Mr. Sean Durant of the Smith family, Mr. Roosevelt Smith and Mr. Arnold C. Smith from the Abbott family, Dr. Charles Wheatley, OBE, and Mr. Melvin Stout of the Thomas family, Miss Lily Mae Durant and Mrs. Luce Hodge-Smith of the Durant family. Now, viewers, the committee is comprised of 2 representatives, as we just mentioned, from the 5 descendant families of Salt Island, British Virgin Islands. The committee's main function will be to address the applications and oversee the land distribution initiative. Minister for Natural Resources, Labor and Immigration, the Honorable Vincent Willey, has said that the newly created Salt Island Land Advisory Committee will assist his ministry in ensuring the fair distribution of Crown lands on Salt Island to its descendants. Now, viewers, on May 30th, 1990, the Executive Council, via a memorandum number 131 of 1990 advised the Crown land be given to all person whose houses are built on Salt Island, that the similar provision be made for native descendants of the Salt Island to be granted a title. Now, the Executive Council further advised at the time of the need to preserve the salt pond and the Rhone Cemetery on the island. Now, over the years, there have been applications submitted to the ministry through the government of the Virgin Islands in the Natural Resources and Labor Ministry requesting ownership of land on Salt Island. The Honorable Minister Wheatley himself added that the role of the committee is to work in collaboration with the ministry and the appropriate experts to really develop recommendations for a land use and develop master plan for the island that takes really into account the preservation of salt ponds and other natural resources, ancestral and historic burial grounds, cultural traditions, likely pond breaking, historical names, buildings, and sites, and a lot more. Now, Honorable Wheatley also said that there will be strict stipulations put in place to ensure that the lands on the islands remain within these families for generations to come. Kamal, we have heard pretty much for decades now the conversation of land on Salt Island and that of the descendants of Salt Island. I am pleased that the newly elected Minister for Natural Resources and Labor found it fit to really move forward with the establishing of a committee, a select committee made up, what I love about it is they're made up of descendants of the family. So they really understand the family, the lineage, the history and heritage of Salt Island to really ensure that the descendants of these families on Salt Island be given the land and it be really divided up equally to make sure that all persons who are descendants of that these families that we just listed get a piece of the pie.
Indeed, I'm obviously hoping that such will be done for the Anegada land distribution as well.
That is also a
in the
big
near
case,
future.
yes.
Obviously, because that has been a great issue in the territory, and we would have seen it recently coming back up in the headlines regarding provisions that need to be put in place. And as the Minister for Natural Resources, the Honorable Vincent, really did say that they are working to basically solve that issue to Anegada that have been existing for decades as well. Well, viewers, moving to international news that shook the United Kingdom and across the globe yesterday, where Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, has been stripped of his military titles just 1 day after a United States court ruled to proceed with a sexual assault lawsuit against the prince. But this is according to a BBC article dated Thursday, January 13th, which said a royal source indicated that the prince will stop using his style, His Royal Highness, in an official capacity. Well, it further said that Prince Andrew's role will be returned to other royal family members and not returned to him even in the future. Well, Buckingham Palace said in a statement, and I quote, "With the Queen's approval and agreement, the Duke of York's military affiliations and royal patronages have been returned to the Queen. The Duke of York will continue not to undertake any public duties and is defending the case as a private citizen," end quote. But Prince Andrew faces a civil case in the United States over claims he sexually assaulted Virginia Giuffre when she was 17, which he has consistently denied. Well, the judge ruled on Wednesday that the case brought by Mr. Giuffre could continue after Prince Andrew tried to have it dismissed. But the news also came after a letter signed by more than 150 Royal Navy, RAF, and Army veterans asked the Queen to strip Prince Andrew of his 8 British military appointments. Well, the latest news means that Prince Andrew has now lost military titles, including Colonel of the Grenadier Guards, one of the most senior infantry regiments in the British Army. The other British military titles he has lost include Honorary Air Commodore of RAF Luxembourg, Colonel-in-Chief of the Royal Irish Regiment, Colonel-in-Chief of the Small Arms Schools Corps, Commodore-in-Chief of the Fleet Air Arm, Royal Colonel of the Royal Highland Fusiliers, and Deputy Colonel-in-Chief of the Royal Lancers, that's Queen Elizabeth's own, a Royal Colonel of the Royal Regiment of Scotland as well. Buckingham Palace had said previously that the Duke's military appointments were suspended after he stepped down from public duties in 2019. He also had several overseas honorary roles, including Colonel-in-Chief of the Royal Highlands Fusiliers of Canada and Colonel-in-Chief of the Royal New Zealand Army Logistic Regiment. For BBC News, Nicholas Mitchell speaks more about this latest story. Take a listen.
So what does it all mean? It means we will never see Andrew like this again, riding as Honorary Colonel of the Grenadier Guards at Trooping the Colour. He stepped down by mutual agreement, we're told, from that position and from roles in nearly a dozen other regiments. He's also giving up roles in the Royal Navy and the RAF. In military circles, there was considerable relief. The MP Tobias Elwood is a former army officer.
The royal family has an intimate relationship, with the regiments going back in history. Many of them are honorary colonels and so forth. And it's important that the problems that Prince Andrew has incurred sort of aren't bled over into the regiments that he was representing.
From sources close to Andrew, we were told he would fight on. The Duke will continue to defend himself against these claims, they said. The claims began more than 10 years ago now with the publication of this photograph of Andrew with the then 17-year-old Virginia Roberts and this photograph of him with the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. In his Newsnight interview, Andrew said he rued the day he became involved with Epstein.
And that's the bit that as it were, I kick myself for on a daily basis, because it was not something that was becoming of a member of the royal family. And we try and uphold the highest standards and practices, and I let the side down. Simple as that.
2 years on from that interview, Andrew, Duke of York, second son of the Queen, 9th in line to the British throne, stands alone.
Well, viewers, that was BBC's news. Nicholas Mitchell speaking on that incident. Obviously, Ron, that would have made headlines yesterday. Absolutely. Considering the implications of what this decision by the Queen means. I mean, obviously, what they're basically stating now is that they would have relieved the agreement. They said that Prince Andrew agreed with the decision to strip him of the royal titles, which means now he must act as a private citizen going forward, especially in this case. Basically, the Queen and the palace basically wiping their hands of Prince Andrew as he's about to go through this very messy situation. Obviously, the allegations of sexual assault is a very, very serious allegation. Not only because of the title, but also because of the implications and also because of the affiliations that Prince Andrew would have had with Jeffrey Epstein. Basically, we all know the situation that just happened with his associate, who was just found guilty of 5 counts. And I'm assuming that that would have played part, obviously, in the Queen making the decision to relieve her son, basically, of having those royal titles to somewhat protect the whole dynasty of the royal palace.
Pretty much, Kamal, a groundbreaking situation. We see over the years the situation as it pertains to sexual assault, particularly when it comes to the associates of Mr. Epstein, is really taking on a life of its own. But the narrative that really speaks to the whirlwind that comes with such allegations, I think, really speak to the level of our world and our society as it comes to the tolerance for instances of such. Of course, guilty innocent until proven guilty. But I do think in this particular case, the royal family, and of course they've seen their share of scandals, but making quite a decisive decision in this matter. Viewers, that is all the time we have as it pertains to content. We thank you so much for tuning in and sticking with us all week. Of course, we are 284 News, your source for honest and impartial news right here in Tortola, Virgin Islands. We thank you so much. Have a beautiful rest of the day, and also do enjoy your weekend. Have a happy Friday. I'm Ron Grant.
And viewers, I'm Kamal Haynes, and as my colleague said, have a safe and happy weekend.
Bye-bye.